I never thought I'd be the kind of person sitting in a courtroom fighting over money with someone I once loved. But there I was, on a cold Tuesday morning in November, watching my ex-wife lie under oath about how broke she was. Her name was Catherine. We'd been married for 11 years. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue back when I was still building my career as a civil engineer. She was funny, charming, and had this way of making everyone in the room feel like they were the most interesting person alive. I fell hard. We got married within a year for a while. Things were good. We bought a house in the suburbs. I worked long hours on construction projects while she managed a small boutique downtown. We talked about kids, vacations, retirement, normal stuff. The kind of future you build when you think you found your person, but somewhere around year 8, things started changing. She became distant. Critical. Every conversation felt like I was being evaluated and found lacking. I tried to fix it. Therapy, date nights, long talks that went nowhere. She'd smile and nod, then go right back to treating me like a roommate she barely tolerated. The divorce papers arrived on a Wednesday. I wasn't shocked, just sad that we'd become strangers, sad that I'd wasted so much time trying to revive something that was already dead. I signed without a fight. I just wanted it to be over. That's when Catherine's lawyer showed up with demands that made my head spin. She wanted the house. She wanted half my retirement account. She wanted half the value of a business I'd started 3 years earlier with my own savings. And on top of all that, she wanted $4,000 a month in alimony. For 10 years, $4,000 every month. For a decade, I sat in my attorney's office staring at the paperwork. How is this even legal? I asked my attorney. A sharp woman named Patricia Torres looked at me with tired eyes. Unfortunately, your wife's lawyer is arguing that she became accustomed to a certain lifestyle during your marriage, and because her income from the boutique is minimal, she's claiming she needs support to maintain that lifestyle. But she closed the boutique 2 years ago, I said, and she never tried to find another job. Patricia nodded. Which is exactly what we'll argue. But Thomas, you need to understand that family court judges often favor the lower-earning spouse, especially if they can prove financial dependency. I felt sick. Catherine had spent the last 2 years of our marriage barely working. She'd closed the boutique claiming it was too stressful, then spent her days at yoga classes and brunch with friends. I'd supported both of us without complaint because I thought that's what you did in a marriage. You carried each other. Now she was using my support as a weapon against me. The preliminary hearings were brutal. Catherine showed up in modest clothing, minimal makeup, playing the part of the struggling, abandoned wife. Her lawyer painted me as a successful engineer who'd left her high and dry while I climbed the corporate ladder. They conveniently left out the part where she'd filed for divorce. Not me. I sat there grinding my teeth while her attorney talked about how Catherine had sacrificed her own career to support mine. It was complete fiction. I'd encouraged her to keep the boutique running. I'd offered to help with the finances when she struggled. She was the one who chose to walk away from it, but none of that seemed to matter after the second hearing. I called my brother Andrew. He'd gone through an ugly divorce 5 years earlier and had come out the other side broke but wiser. She's destroying me, I told him over drinks that night. $4,000 a month, Andrew, for 10 years, that's almost $500,000. Andrew swirled his whiskey. Is she actually struggling, or is this just her lawyers' strategy? I thought about it. I don't know, she's not posting much on social media anymore, but the few photos I've seen, she doesn't exactly look destitute. Then you need to find out, Andrew said, because if she's lying about being broke, you've got leverage. That conversation stayed with me. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Leonard Briggs, a former police detective who now ran a small investigation firm. He had gray hair, wore cheap suits, and had the kind of face that blended into any crowd, perfect for surveillance. I need to know if my ex-wife is really as broke as she claims, I told him in his cluttered office. She's asking for massive alimony, but something doesn't add up. Leonard pulled out a notepad. Give me her address, her usual hangouts, and any social media accounts. I'll see what I can find. 2 weeks later, Leonard called me. Thomas, we need to meet today. I drove to his office with my stomach in knots. When I walked in, Leonard had a manila folder on his desk that looked 3 inches thick. Sit down, he said. I sat. He opened the folder and spread out a series of photographs. Your ex-wife, Catherine, is living in a 4-bedroom house in Riverside Estates. I blinked. Riverside Estates was one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the county. Houses there started at $700,000. She's renting, I asked. No, Leonard said. The house is owned by a man named Gregory Whitmore, 43 years old, owns a chain of car dealerships, net worth estimated at $12 million. My heart started pounding. Who is he? Leonard slid another photo across the desk. It showed Catherine walking hand in hand with a tall man in an expensive suit. They were coming out of a restaurant, both smiling, looking very much like a couple. They've been together for at least a year based on what I've been able to dig up, Leonard continued. But here's the interesting part. He pulled out a marriage certificate. They got married 8 months ago, quiet ceremony, 20 guests. They didn't announce it publicly, probably because she knew it would torpedo her alimony case. I stared at the certificate. My hands were shaking. Catherine had remarried 8 months ago, and she'd been sitting in court for the past 4 months claiming she was struggling and alone and needed my money to survive. Can I use this? I asked. Leonard smiled. Every single piece of it. She committed fraud the moment she filed for alimony while knowing she was married to someone else. I called Patricia immediately. When I walked into her office an hour later and dropped Leonard's folder on her desk, her eyes went wide. Thomas, this changes everything. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the following week. Catherine's lawyer tried to delay it, but the judge denied the motion. He wanted answers. I'll never forget walking into that courtroom. Catherine was already there, sitting next to her attorney, wearing a plain navy dress and looking appropriately humble. She glanced at me once, and I saw a flicker of smugness in her eyes. She thought she'd already won. Patricia leaned over and whispered, "Just stay calm. Let me do the talking." The judge entered. A stern older man named Judge Howard Brennan who'd been on the bench for 30 years. He had a reputation for no-nonsense rulings and zero tolerance for dishonesty. "We're here today," Judge Brennan began, "to address new evidence that has been submitted by the defendant. Ms. Torres, you have the floor." Patricia stood. "Your Honor, the defendant has uncovered evidence that fundamentally undermines the plaintiff's entire case for alimony. With your permission, I'd like to call Mr. Leonard Briggs to the stand." Catherine's lawyer, a slick guy named Harold Vance, shot to his feet. "Objection. We weren't informed of any." "Witnesses, you were informed 72 hours ago as required," Patricia said coolly. "Check your email." Judge Brennan looked at Vance. "Overruled. Proceed." Leonard took the stand and was sworn in. Patricia walked him through his background, his credentials, and then got to the meat of it. "Mr. Briggs, you were hired by the defendant to investigate the plaintiff's financial situation. What did you find?" Leonard opened his folder. "I found that Catherine Hensley is currently living in a 4-bedroom home valued at approximately $850,000 in Riverside Estates. The home is owned by Gregory Whitmore, a businessman worth an estimated $12 million. A murmur went through the courtroom. Catherine's face went pale. "And what is Ms. Hensley's relationship with Mr. Whitmore?" Patricia asked. Leonard pulled out the marriage certificate. "They were married 8 months ago on March 15th. Small ceremony. 22 guests." The courtroom erupted. Judge Brennan slammed his gavel. "Order." I looked at Catherine. She was staring straight ahead, frozen. Her lawyer was frantically whispering in her ear, but she wasn't responding. Patricia entered the marriage certificate into evidence, along with the photographs, financial records showing Catherine's joint bank account with Gregory, and social media posts that had been deleted but recovered showing her living a life of luxury for the past year. "Your Honor," Patricia said, "the plaintiff has been living with her wealthy husband while simultaneously claiming poverty and demanding alimony from my client. This is fraud." Harold Vance tried to salvage it. "Your Honor, my client's personal life." "Your client lied under oath," Judge Brennan interrupted. His voice was ice. "She sat in my courtroom and claimed financial hardship while living in an $800,000 house with a husband worth millions. Ms. Hensley, stand up." Catherine stood slowly. She looked like she might faint. "Did you or did you not remarry 8 months ago?" the judge asked. Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. "I did." "And did you or did you not sign a sworn affidavit claiming you were financially dependent on your ex-husband?" Silence. "Answer the question," Judge Brennan said. "I did," Catherine whispered. The judge leaned back in his chair. "Here's what's going to happen. Your petition for alimony is denied in its entirety. Furthermore, you are ordered to pay the defendant's legal fees totaling $48,000. You have 90 days, and Ms. Hensley, you should count yourself lucky that I'm not referring this case to the district attorney for perjury charges. But if you ever appear in my courtroom again, I won't be so generous. We're adjourned." The gavel slammed down. I sat there stunned. It was over, just like that. Catherine stood frozen for a moment, then turned and walked out of the courtroom without looking at me. Her lawyer followed, already on his phone, probably trying to manage the disaster. Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I think I am." The weeks that followed were surreal. Catherine's lawyer tried to negotiate down the legal fees, but Patricia held firm. Eventually, Gregory wrote a check to make it go away. I suspect he wasn't thrilled to discover his wife had been trying to extract money from her ex while living in his house. I heard through mutual friends that Catherine and Gregory's marriage didn't last much longer. Apparently, the stress of the court case and the embarrassment of being exposed as a fraud did a number on their relationship. They separated 6 months later. I didn't take any pleasure in that. Honestly, I just felt tired of the fighting, tired of the anger, tired of carrying around the weight of betrayal, but I also felt something else. Relief, not just because I'd won the case, but because I finally had proof that trusting my instincts had been the right call. Something had felt wrong from the beginning. Catherine's story hadn't added up, and instead of just accepting it and paying for a decade, I'd pushed back. I rebuilt my life slowly, started dating again, though I was admittedly cautious. Spent more time with Andrew and my parents, focused on my work. Bought a smaller house that felt more like home than the place Catherine and I had shared, about a year after the trial. I ran into Catherine at a coffee shop downtown. It was awkward. She looked different. Older maybe, or just worn down. "Thomas," she said quietly. "Catherine." We stood there for a moment in uncomfortable silence. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "For everything, for lying, for trying to take advantage of you. I was in a bad place and I made terrible decisions." I nodded. "I appreciate that. Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I am, are you?" She gave a sad smile. "Getting there." We said goodbye and went our separate ways. I didn't feel angry anymore, just grateful that chapter was closed. Looking back, I learned some hard lessons. I learned that the person you marry isn't always the person you divorce. People change, circumstances change, and sometimes desperation or greed or fear makes people do things you never would have imagined. I learned that you have to trust your gut. When something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And you have the right to ask questions, to dig deeper, to demand the truth even when it's uncomfortable. I learned that the legal system isn't perfect, but sometimes it works exactly the way it should. The truth came out, justice was served, and the person who tried to cheat the system paid the price. But most importantly, I learned that you can survive betrayal. It hurts. It changes you. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about love and trust and partnership, but you can come out the other side stronger, wiser, and ready to build something better. Remarried now. Her name is Angela. She's a high school teacher with a sharp wit and a kind heart. We dated for 3 years before getting engaged because I needed to be sure, really sure, and when I told her about Catherine and the trial, she listened without judgment and then said, "I'm glad you fought for yourself." That meant everything. We got married last spring in a small ceremony with close friends and family. No drama, no secrets, just two people who chose each other with clear eyes and honest hearts. And sometimes, when I'm sitting on my porch watching the sunset with Angela beside me, I think about that morning in court when Leonard Briggs testified and Catherine's whole facade came crashing down. I think about how close I came to just accepting her demands, to paying hundreds of thousands of dollars I didn't owe, to being a victim of someone else's greed, but I didn't accept it. I pushed back, I asked questions, I demanded proof, and in the end, the truth won. That's the thing about lies. They might work for a while, they might even convince a lot of people, but eventually, the weight of them becomes too much. Eventually, they collapse under their own dishonesty, and when they do, the truth is always there waiting, calm, patient, undeniable. Catherine learned that the hard way, and honestly. I hope wherever she is now, she's learned to be honest with herself, with the people around her, because that's the only way to build a life that actually lasts. As for me, I sleep well at night, my conscience is clear, my life is my own, and I don't owe anyone an apology for standing up for myself. Sometimes, that's all you can ask for, the freedom to walk away from someone else's lies, and the strength to build something true in their place, and that's worth more than any amount of money a judge could have awarded.